Hello, welcome. My name is Laura Alamery, and I wanted to do a brief presentation on virtual real estate investing. And what better time for me to do this while I am actually traveling myself? I'm on a 28-day cruise from San Francisco to Sydney, Australia. And here I am in the middle of the ocean doing this presentation so that I can share with you how you can really free your life to travel and do what you want, even when you're on an extended cruise, and still do real estate, because I'm going to share with you exactly what I am doing right now. But let me go back and talk about a little bit how I got started with virtual. Actually, I started back in the mid 90s, okay, before all the technologies and tools were out there. It was more about, I was actually living halfway, 2-3 weeks in the Midwest and 2-3 weeks in New York, and I was doing real estate on both ends. But sometime when I was in New York, I had deals going on in St. Louis, actually most of the times, and vice versa. So I had to really create a business model where I could still conduct my business. And back then, mid 90s, the internet was not really popular yet, no emails or a lot of the tools we have nowadays. So I was really running my business with just a fax machine and phone and a cell phone. And but even before that, I was using all my commuting time being on the cell phone and really making calls and following up. And so when I tell people that in mid 90s I was spending $800 to $1,000 a month on a cell phone bill, people say, "Oh my gosh," because back then cell phones were like $1 a minute. But think about it, and I tell people, what is $800 to $1,000 when you're making tens of thousands of dollars a month because you use that tool? So now let's fast forward to today. Today is so much easier to actually run your real estate business wherever you are. And when we are talking about virtual, we don't mean necessarily that you have to be in the middle of the Pacific Ocean to run your business on the East Coast. A virtual could be that you live 20 minutes from where you're doing your properties and your deals. And I really got comfortable myself even more with this idea back in the beginning of 2000s when I started buying properties at auction. So I started going out there and buying properties at auction. And as many of you know, when you buy properties at auction, you really don't get to see the properties or inside the properties most of the time. So I really had to get used to the idea of really exchanging real estate as a commodity where I wasn't really seeing the property, and I could do due diligence only up to a certain point, and therefore most of it was virtual, right? Even if I could see the property, I still couldn't really put my hands on the property until after the auction. So now we run a virtual in different states, but also 20 minutes from where we live, because the concept of virtual is really the fact that you don't have to go and see the property. You don't have to really be there physically to show the property. And if you think about it, most of your business nowadays is run virtually, right? I mean, the phone calls you make, the emails, the text, everything is done from your phone. So what difference does it make if you are 20 minutes from your house, from the property that you're trying to sell, or 20 hours? So with that said, you do need some infrastructure in place if you do want to run your business virtual, okay? And I did another video presentation, and I have a blog post, and I have a podcast that talks about business automation. So that's your first cornerstone if you do virtual wholesaling. So before you go on an extended trip around the world or whatever you're gonna do, have business automation in place. And on business automation, please, refer to the podcast and video. But I talk about having an acquisition in place, a disposition department, and a transaction management. And if you're doing fix and flip and buy and hold, also having a project management and property management in place. So once you have all these components, then you can really run your business virtually. Okay, and because now you have delegated out 95% of your business, but there's still a component that has to be you, and I'm going to cover this here in a moment. So with that said, you do need a good internet connection. Okay, that's fundamental. Wherever I travel to, if I stay at an Airbnb somewhere or even on a cruise ship, I want to make sure that cruise ships nowadays have, some of them have better internet than others. So that to me is very crucial when I make my decision on a cruise, that they have good internet connection. The same thing with Airbnb, especially if you travel in certain countries, some Wi-Fi is not as good. So one of my first things is always I ask the owner of the properties where I stay, how is the internet? Because that to me is crucial. And the thing is, obviously, if you're at home running your business virtual, you want to have the best internet connection possible. Okay, so internet is very, very important. The other thing is obviously having a laptop, a computer. I do run my business from a laptop when I travel. I do also have a tablet, but a laptop gives me a little more flexibility and it's more reliable. So I do have a laptop. And the third thing you need is some type of phone system that goes over the internet for you to communicate. Okay. Now, when I'm on a cruise ship, because of the limited, we have satellite Wi-Fi, so it's not the broadband is not as wide as when you're on land. I use Google Voice, Google Hangouts to make the phone calls. If you're on land, you have more options available, including your cell phone. Now, I use Verizon for my phone service. And the good thing about Verizon, and I'm not familiar with other phone companies, is that Verizon has a plan where for $10 a day, I can use voice, text, and also internet, unlimited internet, because I have unlimited internet in the US, and no matter where I am. Okay, so when I'm on New Zealand or I'm in Sydney, $10 a day will give me the same service that I have at home. And again, what is $10 a day when you are going to run several deals that will make you tens of thousands of dollars? So, put everything in perspective. So these honestly are the only tools you really need to run the business. Now, if you are at home on the States, obviously you still use the same tools, because when we go into business automation, that is the part you really need to have in place to have virtual, is where you got all the components laid out. So my suggestion is that you work on business automation first. Okay, getting your acquisition, getting your disposition, transaction management, property management, and project management in place before you decide to run your business virtually and travel on the other side of the world. Okay, but the virtual part of real estate is honestly, doesn't matter if you live on 20 minutes from where the properties are or where your market is the way to run the business. Because honestly, even when we do a lot of wholesaling, and we do it virtually, meaning we live in South Florida, but we tackle markets in the Midwest, on the East Coast, and other markets in Florida, and we never even see these properties. And all is run with the tools I just mentioned to you. Obviously, I don't use Google Voice. When I'm on the state side, I just use Verizon, and when I'm on land, I use also my cell phone as well, even if I'm in another country. But those 4 tools I just mentioned to you, internet, laptop, a good cell phone service, or having Google Hangouts, is what I need when I travel. Because the thing is, with virtual, I'm really just basically communicating with my sellers, the leads that are hot, ready to put deals. But then I have my acquisition managers, I have other people in my team that actually do the work and market while I'm gone, market the properties, get new leads, and put everything in place. So that's why I say business automation is really where you need to start with before you go into virtual wholesaling or virtual investing. Now, there are different parts of virtual. You can do wholesaling, which is obviously the easiest one to do virtually, but you can also do buy and hold and fix and flip. I'm gonna bring actually on in the next few weeks a lady that she's gonna start coaching with me on doing buy and hold virtually. Okay, she bought over 20 houses about 1,500 miles from where she lives, never even saw the houses, and now she's producing about almost $10,000 a month in rental income net from these houses, and all it's been done virtually. So this is a way that we're going to teach people how to do this virtually as well. There is also a way to do fix and flip virtually. There is a company out there that actually teaches about doing fix and flip virtually. The biggest thing is about when you do a fix and flip virtually, the biggest thing is your project management, to have project management in place. And honestly, you're a property manager. When I do my fix and flips virtually, where I live in South Florida, we still do in the Midwest, but I do have my boots on the ground. I have a project management and a project management in place that actually supervise the construction. So I don't have to personally see the property, but I have somebody that actually supervises for me. So I wanted to share with you basically that yes, this can be done and it's fun. And if you start thinking outside the box and thinking how this is doable and possible, you can see how it frees up not only the fact that you can work in different markets, but you also can do it, while you travel, while you have the life that you want. You don't have to be so much hands-on like you think you need to be in real estate. So business automation is your cornerstone, and then you can develop into virtual real estate investing. So hopefully this video was helpful, gave you a little bit of a different perspective how you can run your business, and I see you on the next presentation. Thank you.